Hey, what is up guys? David Zhao here, and today's video is gonna be a little bit special. Not just because of the subject, but as you can tell, this is probably gonna be the last time that there's gonna be a video in this room. Honey!
Hi.
How excited are you about moving?
Very excited.
Such a big move. What the freak? But enough with my life. Today we're here to talk about how to make good thumbnails. And that's gonna require us to talk about the 3 C's of making a good thumbnail: contrast, clarity, and clickbait. So the first C we're gonna be talking about is contrast. So contrast can be as simple as talking about a flat image, whether that's colors or luminance values, compared to a very saturated or contrasty image. And now the reason why you want a contrastier image is because contrastier images will catch attention better. Flat images are dull, less interesting, while brighter and more colorful photos will typically make people stop and look at it. So that's the concept behind contrast. It doesn't literally have to be about literal contrast, but it's about the concept of the fact that it should be starkly different and starkly unique. If all the thumbnails you're scrolling past are all flat and dull and one comes out of nowhere that's punchy and interesting and vibrant, you're gonna stop and look at it and be like, what is this? So, how do we get better contrast? Well, the first step is turning a flatter image into a contrastier image. So the first thing you want to do is, first of all, make sure it's brightly exposed. Make sure the image is bright on a screen. And then after that, make sure that the image isn't too flat. If you're a filmmaker, you're probably already shooting your videos in a flat color profile or even a log color profile, which for those who are uninitiated just means a super flat image that has more color and luminance values crammed into a single image. But you take that into post-production and you add in those colors, you add in the color correction, color grading, and now you have the final look you want. Well, in your thumbnail, make sure you add a little bit more to make sure that it's really crisp and punchy. So that's just the whole image overall. You're probably already doing that for your thumbnails. So the next step is not just contrasting your thumbnail as a whole compared to other thumbnails it might be put up against, but also to make your subject in the thumbnail contrastier than the background of your thumbnail. So what do I mean by that? Well, typically, if you look at my thumbnails, you can tell that a lot of times I like to isolate the subject. For example, for my lens review videos, I like to make sure that there is extreme focus on the product that I'm talking about in the video. So let's talk about how you can get this effect in camera. Well, for example, look at this thumbnail I did for the Sigma 56. I held the lens really close up to the camera so that way it's in focus and everything else is in the background is blurred. So what that results in is an image where your eyes are drawn to the subject in the frame, which is just gonna be that lens. But you also don't have to just do it in camera. You can also throw your photo into Photoshop or whatever image editor of your choice is and isolate that subject. So there's a tool in Photoshop where you can go select subject, and actually most of the time this does 90% of the work for you, and then you turn that into a layer mask, or you can manually go in and make a layer mask by painting it. Whatever your method is, you want to basically create a cutout of your subject. So for this example, let's talk about a lens. In my thumbnails, I typically like to have the product or the subject completely isolated on its own in its own layer, and I like to go ahead and edit that layer differently than I edit the background. I like the subject to be brighter, more contrasty, and also more saturated, while the background I typically like to have darker, less saturated, and if you want to add additional emphasis, you can blur the background behind the subject to really create separation. So when you're scrolling down like 100 thumbnails looking on YouTube, your eyes don't have to try to figure out what this thumbnail is. It immediately is drawn to what exactly it is. So that brings me to the second C, clarity. So what do I mean by clarity? Clarity is all about readability. When somebody looks at one of your thumbnails, they should immediately know what that video is about and what that thumbnail is trying to tell them. So like in my previous example about the lens, when you scroll down, you can immediately tell that, yes, this video is about a lens, so it's probably a review, a first impression, unboxing, something of the sort. But you can take it an extra bit farther, like how earlier we already created a cutout of the lens in the thumbnail. Go ahead and add a stroke to it, or an outline. Now it's completely unmistakable when you scroll down. Boom, there you go. This video is about a lens. And on top of that, for more clarity, if you're into using text in your thumbnails, which I personally like, throw text behind the subject, and now not only are you visually showing what this video is about, you are now reinforcing that with some sort of like shortened, punchy version of your video title right on the thumbnail. They don't even have to move their eyes over to the actual title of the video, and they already know, oh look, this video is about the Sony 20mm lens, or about the Sigma 16. And of course, this is just the concept of the second C, clarity. You don't literally have to put an outline around your subject, nor do you have to put text behind your subject, but the idea here is that when I'm scrolling down, not only does this thumbnail catch my attention, it should also let me know exactly what the video is about. It shouldn't be a thumbnail of just someone's reaction and then not what they're reacting to. Like when you see filmmaker reacts to crazy Hollywood techniques, it should be a reaction face and then the thing they're reacting to, and immediately you can tell, oh, this is about somebody reacting to something, and this is what that video is gonna be about. Let me go ahead and look at the title. Is it interesting? Okay, I'll click on it. And finally, the last C, clickbait. And by that, I don't mean objectify women in your thumbnail so you can get clicks. Ah, come on, Jake, you're better than that. No, instead, what I mean by clickbait is the psychological, clinical definition of it, as in your thumbnail should contain something that makes somebody stop and go, I want to see more. And from there, you're gonna turn someone who just saw the thumbnail into somebody who clicked on it because they wanted to find out more. And out of the 3 C's, this is the hardest one. With contrast and clarity, all you're trying to do is just hone in on what your video is already about. Clickbait, on the other hand, clickbait is more about trying to make the subject of your video as interesting as it can be. For example, if you're talking about how you're literally burning money if you're buying these insert camera gear here, I guess you could burn money in your thumbnail. Okay, that wasn't real money. Or was it? Nah, I'm not gonna burn real money. I ain't got that kind of cash. I got like 6,000 subs. What you think this is? Speaking of subs, I see you. You're not subscribed? Go ahead. Do it.
Do it.
It's gotta make the viewer go, I have to see this. So go forth, my friends. Go out there, use the 3 C's, and start making better thumbnails. So that's it for this one. It was just a quickie. I just wanted to get one last video in before I moved out of this apartment. But my question to you is, what is the best thumbnail that you've ever seen on YouTube? Because personally, I'm really curious what your answer to that would be. And by now, you know the drill. If you liked the video, leave a thumbs up, get subscribed, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.